What kind of world do I want to live in? I think about this question a lot.
For our generation and for specifically my group of people, which is refugees, the circumstances might dismantle the future that we have.
You're trying to rebuild, you're trying to make a future for yourself, and then the climate-related disaster comes and you start it. It's not about how it's affecting you now, it's about how it's affecting your entire life.
The first step to understand is that we're all a part of it. None of us are going to be left out by the crisis.
Are treating this like the emergency it is. To achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, we have to go from an intention to a serious commitment.
Business leaders really need to rethink how they conduct their business and invest in creating systems that are climate friendly.
The action I would like to see is accountability. Structures being put in place where countries aren't just asked to do something, but they're kept accountable to the decisions that they make.
There has to be that strong collaboration between government, between corporations, between youth activists to drive change forward.
The world I would want to live in is a world where imagining the future is not a privilege.
I want to live in a world where people do not give up on hope that a positive change is possible.
The fact that you're listening today means that you are willing to make a change.
A warm welcome to everyone joining us today. Please select the language of your preference as we have multiple language interpretation channels. I am delighted to co-facilitate this conversation today on the importance of fostering the Amazon's bioeconomy with my colleague, Nicole Schwab, who leads the forum's work on nature-based solutions and the 1TrillionTrees.org platform. We're joined today by a group of very special guests that we will introduce throughout the session. The Amazon has the potential to become the world's most important bioeconomy, delivering jobs and benefits for local communities and harnessing innovation while restoring and conserving ecosystems. It is home to more than 34 million people of very diverse backgrounds and holds 10% of the world's known biodiversity. It also accounts for 20% of the world's remaining forest areas. However, ecosystem degradation and deforestation, including illegal activities, continue to pose major socioeconomic and environmental threats. Therefore, a new bioeconomy paradigm for the region has never been more urgent. Regional leadership has made important strides. Efforts are being led by the Amazon countries, by the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization, also through the Letitia Pact Process and Action Plan, by the Inter-American Development Bank, and of course, by local communities, NGOs, researchers, international cooperation, and businesses pioneering sustainable approaches. I believe it could be fair to say that we're seeing a new momentum to promote change for the sustainability of the Amazon. For the past 2 years, from the World Economic Forum, we have been convening a dialogue series on the Amazon. We have focused on raising awareness, explored paths to catalyze sustainable resources and finances, and reflected on the role of businesses in this context. Today, we're very excited to spotlight a critical aspect of this equation, the need to foster the Amazon's bioeconomy by promoting ecopreneurship and innovation across the region. Transitioning to a healthy standing forest bioeconomy offers to new opportunities to preserve and restore the Amazon rainforest while providing viable alternatives to its communities. Agroforestry solutions, for instance, can reestablish the forest ecological functions and expand the region's supply of timber and non-timber forest products such as cacao, acai, Brazil nut, and essential oils. Voluntary carbon markets are seeing skyrocketed demand of 280% over the past 12 months, and other sector services and innovations also represent great potential. This is why we're also pleased to share today the results of the Amazon Bioeconomy Challenge, which will be launched with our 1trilliontrees.org and uplink platforms, and in collaboration with key partners to support innovative bioeconomy projects that are locally anchored and help conserve and restore the Amazon ecosystem while delivering social and economic benefits for local communities. As we discussed today, these efforts to build multi-stakeholder partnerships for the Amazon's bioeconomy requires efforts and cooperation at many levels. To explore this and envision actions for the region to pave the way for an accelerated transition to a sustainable bioeconomy, we have a stellar group of guests. Quisiera comenzar invitando a la Secretaria General de la Organización del Tratado de Cooperación Amazónica, Alexandra Moreira. La organización dirigida por Alexandra es una organización intergubernamental.
I would like to start inviting the Secretary General, the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization. It's formed by the 8 countries that have signed the Treaty of the Amazons in 1988. The ACTO gives a very ample promotion of the South cooperation in the Treaty of the Amazons cooperation with political, diplomatic, and technical efforts creating synergy between a diversity of actors. Welcome, Alexander. Could you please share with us an update on the recent bilateral agreement that have signed all the countries of the area for the protection of the Amazon, the well-being of their inhabitants, and the promotion of the biodiversity? Yes, thank you very much, Marisol. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you again to the World Economic Forum to be here. I would like also to send my greeting to the Vice President of Brazil, Mr. Hamilton Mourão, and also to the other panelists. I would like to start very briefly with a light report of IPCC that confirms the very big vulnerability of our area. We are here a testimony. This is a testimony of what is happening in the area, the frequency, the floods in all the area, and the changes of climate. This IPCC report has a great importance for us for the protection of the area. When we are talking about really forests of the Amazons, really the climatic change of the different actors are causing ecological transformation, which are very complicated on a very large scale that could generate also larger changes due to the change our humid or wet, forest to dry forest. Before this news and this large complexity that we have to face today, the 8 countries that are members of the ACTO have approved, after long negotiations, 2 very important programs. One, which is on the sustainable management of the forest. And, it's for a shared vision, a very strong, impulse to our system, the development of all this, of the bioeconomy, the implementation of action for the sustainable management of the forest, fighting against fires, the protection of indigenous people, among many others. We should not forget that there are about 48 million people that live in our region and that need, improve their livelihood with a better equality, with lots of more productivity. This vision for this country, it's not opposed to have a controlled model of development that would understand the largest richness that has the Amazon is the forest, which is a really that will enable them keep this system of that generates rains in this rainforest that we have in our region, thanks to the function of the forest and also, this heritage that we have in the area. For this, it's necessary to have new technologies, also the applied science, but also a large gathering of finance resources, public and private, that will foster biodiversity to have large possibilities in a sustainable ways and to add value to the small and medium companies' initiatives to help the cities and their people. So this is the power of our countries and, and help our Amazon region, so as you've said, this economic potential of many areas, cacao, acai, many which have a large nutritional value, can generate new models with a lot of productivity. Cocoa is a great example in the Amazon area. It's very diverse in the world, in its genetics, species. It's a produce for many of our countries, Ecuador, Bolivia, Brazil, and that means for us to have a high quality cocoa that requires a larger invention, more technology. So that would enable us to have a very productive industry and that will protect our environment. I would like to make also reference to acai from Brazil, which is very important in the production. More than 350,000 people in the state of Pará are working in this agriculture. So this new model enables us to work with the Amazon people and the indigenous people that participate in all this work. Really, the future of the Amazon will depend on maintaining its natural equilibrium for these development models, thanks to the sustainable diversity, thanks to agroforestal system, restoring all the areas that have been deforested and that are today large extensions that in many cases have been abandoned and that could be really tapped on thanks to very high value new productions, thanks to also many actions for these degraded areas associated with local industries for the value chain. So that's how we are heading. We need to work, but definitively, are great. We have to change from the destruction economy to the economy of the knowledge of the nature. Thank you, Marisol. Thank you very much, Alexandra. We are very excited to hear about this new progress, this new consensus that all the countries of the area have reached. So really wonderful to you. Now I would like to invite the Vice President of Brazil, the Excellency Hamilton Mourão,
Brazil's Amazon Council for Coordinated and Comprehensive Policy on Action for the Protection and Sustainable Development of the Amazon. Senhor Vice-Presidente, bem-vindo. We had a very encouraging conversation a few months ago.
L'Amazonie. Nous avons eu un échange très intéressant il y a quelques mois. Pourriez-vous nous parler des facteurs les plus importants s'agissant de la stratégie brésilienne pour relever les défis?
Secretária General de la Organización del Tratado de Cooperación Amazónica, Ms. Nicole Schwab from the World Economic Forum, members members of the panel, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to start by thanking the World Economic Forum for bringing together key stakeholders to discuss ways to foster the Amazon's bioeconomy. This is a timely and important discussion. Bioeconomy enterprising in the Amazon offers an opportunity to strengthen and expand business that combine environmental protection, economic growth, and social inclusion. Our government has put forward a comprehensive effort to protect, preserve, and develop the Amazon region with the reestablishment of the National Council of the Legal Amazon in February last year, which I have had the honor to chair. From the outset, the Amazon Council acknowledged the need to step up the fight against illegal deforestation and other environmental crimes, while also shaping a sustainable development plan for the region. There are 5 strategic policy goals guiding the work of the Council. First, to enhance command and control operations in the Amazon, with a focus on the fight against illegal deforestation and the strengthening of federal environmental agencies. Second, to promote the regularization of land tenure and economic ecological zoning, which are necessary steps for more effective monitoring, control, and development policies. Third, to leverage public and private financial resource, including through the payment for environmental service. Fourth, to integrate information systems of different governmental agencies to ensure greater efficiency, transparency, accountability, and better governance. And fifth, to foster bioeconomy and innovation, allowing even the most remote areas of the Amazon to generate wealth and create jobs for its population. We believe the public sector's role is to strengthen the rule of law and to provide incentives, building and enabling a business-friendly environment for private actors to generate value, jobs, and creative solutions. In the past 2 years, Brazil has repeatedly employed the armed force in support of environmental agencies to fight illegal deforestation and related crimes. Fortunately, we have managed to reverse the acceleration of deforestation that started in 2012. Recent data from the DETER alert system indicate that deforestation rates fell by 32% in August this year, in comparison to numbers from August last year. Data from September this year also indicate a reduction of deforestation and forest fires when compared to the same months of last year. The government is strengthening our environmental agencies, improving monitoring systems, and accelerating land regularization. These measures contribute to the effective implementation of our environmental law framework, in particular our forest code, thus enabling bioeconomy to thrive in the region. Regrettably, efforts in favor of the sustainable development of the Brazilian Amazon have been hindered for many years because of a stalemate between those that see the forest as an obstacle to economic growth and those that believe the private sector is an enemy to the forest's integrity. We are no longer hostage to this false dichotomy. Bioeconomy efforts have been a priority in our agenda, taking into account the private sector as an indispensable partner for its implementation. That's what I had to say for now.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you very much for that update. In your opinion, how can public-private partnerships support these objectives in Brazil while ensuring that initiatives and value are clearly aligned with local sustainability objectives?
Oh, Marcel, the partnership between public and private stakeholders has the potential to channel investments into bioeconomy efforts, contributing to the sustainable use of biodiversity and making a difference in the lives of thousands of people. We are aware that governments cannot replace the private sector's resourcefulness. Companies, investors, producers, and entrepreneurs must take the lead to promote a new cycle of green and inclusive growth in the Amazon. Public and private actors acknowledge the market potential for products and services arising from the sustainable use of forest resource. Existing value chains for food products, cosmetics, and pharmaceuticals, for instance, can be improved or expanded even in the short term. Degraded areas offer opportunity for new business models, combining the production of forest products with financial incentives for reforestation and ecosystem restoration. Brazil already counts with a network of research institutions dedicated to Amazon issues. It is important to stress that we, as government, have limited capacity to channel large sums to research and development, particularly in the post-pandemic scenario. In this context, it is crucial that private business invest on a knowledge-based bioeconomy and support innovative research activities in the Amazon. The alignment of financial incentives will accelerate the modernization and expansion of sustainable value chains in the Amazon. The Brazilian financial sector has taken major steps in this direction. The three largest private banks of Brazil have launched a joint initiative providing great impulse for the bioeconomy agenda in the Amazon. At the regional level, the Inter-American Development Bank has launched the Amazon Initiative last March with a bioeconomy fund to leverage private sector engagement in the Amazon. Brazil has supported this initiative from the beginning, and I hope that Mr. Juan Pablo Bonilla, who is with us today, will bring us some good news on that front. Innovation is key to achieving the change that are needed to boost local enterprise. In this regard, I also look forward to hearing the initiatives selected by the Amazon Bioeconomy Challenge, launched by Uplink and WEF. It is critical to scale up innovative projects and to build bridges between local entrepreneurs and international investors. It is quite inspiring to learn about the results and the potential for promoting bioeconomy in the Amazon. 2 weeks ago, I traveled with a group of ambassadors, including among them my good friend Maria Alejandra from ACTO, to visit several projects and companies in the state of Pará, the most populated in the Brazilian Amazon. I'd like just to mention that the state of Pará is 3 times the size of Germany. They learned about initiatives dedicated to sustainable mining, renewable energies, public health, environmental conservation, and the great potential for bioeconomy investments. We visit a new cacao improvement factory in the municipality of Altamira, almost 400 kilometers from the capital, Belém. It is a private investment, the first of its kind in that region, and it follows the highest standards of quality, including ESG standards. The factory is adding value to local bioeconomy production, creating good paying jobs and promoting reforestation in the municipalities with the highest rates of deforestation in the region. This example shows that governments have the main responsibility in the protection of the environment in our countries, but the sustainable development particularly in the Amazon, will only succeed with greater engagement from the private sector. Thank you very much for your attention.
Muito obrigado, senhor vice-presidente. Estoy segura que Juan Pablo.
I am sure that Juan Pablo has got lots of great news. He is the manager. He's the climate change and sustainable development sector in the Inter-American Development Bank. Why investments are so important in this sector, and what are the aims, the clear objectives that we have to take into account, thinking of an entrepreneurship towards a new economy? Thank you very much, Marisol. I thank you very much to you and Nicole. Thank you to have invited the bank to be part of this effort, to this very important panel. Thank you. I would like to send my greetings to all the members of the panel that are here, and also to the President Moran, also special greetings. I would like to start from the initiative. The Vice President of Brazil has just said last month of March, during the Assembly of the BAC, we launched the initiative for sustainable development for the territories, with 4 pillars that are exactly what Maria Alexandra was talking about, thinking of a new model of development for the Amazon basin. The bank initiative, the 4 pillars on which we are going to work are: first, the economy, which gathers all of us, and the second pillar is all that part of development of sustainable agriculture, and also cattle, that we can do everything well, also for the forest. It's very important also the human capital, all the investment that we have to do for health, education, jobs creation, and the fourth, which is very important, in sustainable infrastructure with the connectivity, which is going to be very important. Also sustainable cities, as what Alessandra was saying, acknowledging the importance of human capital in the Amazon basin. This, as we were saying, the directory of our bank approved $24,000 million for that, for financing the region and to make investment plans in the Amazon region. We're starting to do it, and we're working with the Ministry of Finance. Our members, our governors are part of these ministries. The fund of bioeconomy that the Vice President mentioned, that was an idea from the Brazilian government and supported by many countries around the Amazon. We have been progressing. We are going to present it during the meeting on the 4th of October. It's going to be extremely important to work with the Development Bank to, give them access to this question of economy. And the first point is working with Peru, with FIDE. We are working also with the Bank of Development in Brazil, Development Bank of Brazil, and this is extremely important. We are going to work with OTCA, with ACTO, and we had very important conversations on that point. We have to set all the frameworks, especially in the economy of the Amazon countries. That's very important. How to start working in the sustainable cities in the Amazon, and that's exactly answering the question you asked, talking about entrepreneurship. And this proposal, we have very important resources for entrepreneurship. We are going to work with BizLab, that is starting to work a lot with you, and I would like to thank them, on behalf of BizLab. This is the platform 1 trillion trees, which is extremely important too. We will have also very important resources to work with local economies and have an entrepreneurship so that local economies, as the Vice President of Brazil said, be our partners for everything we start. We are starting to have a small fund, a multi-donor fund to pay for forestry. We are rather advanced here. And to coordinate the whole, this whole set, talking about sustainability, the 2025 vision that we have for these 5 years to come are taking into account climate change, sustainability with the impact of the pandemic. And thanks to the leadership of the President of the Bank, this 2025 vision is becoming becoming the central, really, it's pivotal for the region. And for that, we are starting to open a new unit in the bank, which is called the Amazon Coordination Unit, to be able to, progress on these 4 pillars I mentioned, and to, start all the financial mechanism. And we hope it will start working very, very quickly. It's all entrepreneurship, starting, this new vision. We see there is a great interest from the large funds, to invest due to the climate change emergency that we have. But we see that all the banks are part of that. And I was very pleased to see that the 5th of September, the day of the Amazon, there was a very important article of the 3 most important banks in Brazil. And I know that's something they are really working with the President Moran of its vision of the private banking in Brazil. And these are very important signs that we can see. But what can we do with small companies, small little businesses that are starting in that world to get support from the beginning? They are very important entities that are starting to have this nexus with the Amazon, with also Sustainable Development Fund in Manaus and many others also. But what can we do all together to support all these, startups? The bank has started a fund which is called Regenerate to support these small startups. And the proposal that I mentioned about bioeconomy, we will have specific resources to be able to work on that issue. Thank you very much.
Juan Pablo.
Thank you, Juan Pablo. This contribution is really very important from really the Inter-American Development Bank, and that help us very much to really keep on working, looking for this sustainable development in this very important region.
Who will also address very key aspects and will lead a very interesting discussion, bringing in the ecopreneurs that have been selected for the Uplink Challenge. Nicole, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marisol. I'd like to turn the conversation now a little bit to the private sector and the role of the private sector and this new generation of entrepreneurs whom we call ecopreneurs. These are entrepreneurs who are putting restoration at the core of their business model. And as the Vice President rightly mentioned, we have to move away from this dichotomy between conservation and development. And we're seeing very clearly that it is possible to create restorative businesses, and we will hear from 2 of those very soon. We also want to look a little bit at the incentives and the business case for the private sector more broadly, for multinational companies. At the global level, today with 1T.org, we have just announced the first 24 pledges from 24 global companies who are pledging to conserve, restore, and grow 2.5 billion trees over the next decade in over 50 countries. So we're seeing there's a lot of traction, there's a lot of interest, and this is clearly no longer uniquely a CSR or philanthropic opportunity, but also moving to the core of a business strategy and risk management. So to discuss this, I would like to start with you, Roberto Marques. You are the CEO and Executive Chairman of the Board at Natura & Co. in Brazil. Your company has issued a very comprehensive sustainability plan, Commitment to Life. Can you tell us more about this and about your perspective on the sustainable bioeconomy in the Amazon and what will be needed for us to get there?
Sure. First, Nicole, thank you. Thank you, Marisol, for the invitation to the distinctive panelists. A pleasure to be here. A special shout out to our Vice President, Mourão, Vice President of Brazil, not only for your leadership, Vice President, but also really, inspiring us in terms of how we needed to really come together between private sector and public sector to face such an important topic. I would start saying that in our mind, the bioeconomy in the Amazon region is just a must. This is one of the important pillars. Last year, when we announced our 2030 sustainability vision, we divided in 3 pillars. One of them talks about, fighting the climate crisis and protecting the Amazon, which we're going to talk more. But the second talks about diversity and inclusion and how to defend human rights. And the third one talks about, embrace circularity and regeneration. In particular, regarding the Amazon region, we think that it's super important that we embrace science-based targets for biodiversity. And Natura actually has been working the Amazon region for over 20 years. And during this period, I think, we estimate that we've been able to preserve over 2 million hectares of the forest, right? But the key thing about that preservation is the collaboration and work with the local communities. This is really also another must. We cannot ignore, and I think Marisol, you mentioned that, the importance of the local communities and the population in the region. They are the guardians of the forest itself, and therefore it's super important to work with them. This whole dilemma, or this aspect that it's impossible to drive economic development preservation, we think that we needed absolutely to demystify that. And there are plenty of examples, not only within Natura, but many companies. Natura, for example, has a manufacturing site in the Pará state that the vice president was talking about, in the municipality of Benavides. And with a technology and innovation center there, we've been able to really work with the local communities to harvest some of the ingredients that has some very interesting properties in terms of hydration, in terms of moisturization. And one of them was mentioned also in this panel, acai, which is a fruit from the Amazon palm tree. And it's a great biodiversity ingredient that we use in one of our very popular lines in Brazil called Natura Ecos. And from the oils of the seeds, we can provide a lot of benefits in terms of our products. And at the same time, sharing, health and helping those communities work with us to create a sustainable development for them. So we believe that, embracing science-based targets, really thinking about biodiversity, including the local communities into any of the decisions in how we really involve them, but really, demystifying this notion that there is no sustainable development without, deforestation. It's something that we believe is false, that we need absolutely to prove that our ways through, again, the bioeconomy, to create a very sound Amazon region, not only for Brazil and for Latin America, but for the world, because the Amazon region is such an important element of the biodiversity globally and worldwide.
Thank you, Roberto, and thank you also. Your company is clearly an example showing us what's possible, and we hope to see many more large companies following this lead and science-based targets for biodiversity. On the topic of working with local communities and ecopreneurship, I'd like to now turn to the first of our 2 ecopreneurs that we have on the panel, who are both part of the winning cohort of the Amazon Bioeconomy Challenge, which we launched as a partnership between 1T.org and Uplink. So very exciting to hear from you, and I'd like to turn first to you, Sofia Rubio. You are the founder and CEO of a company called Shiwi in Peru, and your tagline is very inspiring, healthy, conscious, wild. Can you tell us more about Shiwi, about your work and the impact that you're having, but also about the challenges that you think need to be overcome if we are to achieve this vision of a standing forest bioeconomy?
Buenas tardes a todos.
Yes, good afternoon to all of you. Thank you very much for inviting us to this wonderful panel. As Nicole said, Shiwi is a company that sells very high quality products with a value added, which is very important in protected natural areas. And, we just created, just like that, to help to support economically the preservation and conservation, just like Roberto was saying. It's what's happening in these areas, and these are one of many examples. We work with chestnuts. Chestnuts has several names around this world, and I would like they start to call them, the Amazon chestnut instead of giving it so many names. So we have working with Brazil, Bolivia, Peru. We are working under one single name, this Amazon chestnut. But for us, it's been very complex, to have this small, Amazon startup, because there is lots of education to do with consumers. We have to share lots of information, because to start, it's a nut which has a commercial value, but no one knows that it's wild with lots of ecological requirements. And therefore, I think, that it's a non-timber forest product. It's this what it says. That helps us to generate economical resources. That are based on the forest, on biodiversity, and I think with the different values than the economy with the largest distribution along the supply chain, with a lot of participation at the local level. We are harvesters. We participate in the added value of the commercialization of the products. We can have, small, large, or medium economies, but they can be very different. We can have a good matching between natural conservation and market strength, and that's exactly what we're looking for.
Thank you very much, Sophia. So turning now to Ricardo Calderon, you are the Executive Director of AgroSolidaria from Colombia. And I'd like to ask you the same question. You're working on agroforestry systems in Colombia. Can you tell us a little bit more about your work, about the impact you're having, and also about the challenges that you see that need to be overcome for you to be able to scale your activities?
Hola, mi nombre es...
Hello, so my name is Ricardo Andrés Calderón, and I'm really very happy to be with you and greet you in this meeting. And I would like to thank you for this very nice invitation. And AgroSolidaria Florencia is an association of producers that, enhance the conservation of forests with non-timber products to transform them in high-value products. In our conservation forests, we've called them, Amazon and cosmetic forest. We can do the conservation of more than 1,000 hectares, in which participate more than 250 families that are part of our local communities. More than half, 50% of them are victims of the armed conflict that we have in the area. And so I'm extremely proud to tell you that we've been elected in Natura Brazil as the best Colombian producers, and this, makes our dream a reality to generate financial resources to our families. Little startups just like ours, like the one, we have a lot of issues. We need to have more people, more persons, more communities get to know us, can, participate to obtain our products and buy them, and can also choose them. We need to have this development, to have a more agile system, to be more competitive. And that's the only way for us to ensure that our local communities could make a living and see in the forest conservation a viable
Thank you very much, Ricardo, and very inspiring to hear your work. And it's also great to see that we already have an example on this panel of a partnership and how such partnerships can really help to scale some of these efforts from the ecopreneurs. I'd like to turn back to you, Juan Pablo, and we're very grateful for the excellent collaboration with IDB Lab on this challenge. And of course, you mentioned before how important it is to spur this movement of ecopreneurship. And we've just heard from Ricardo about some of the challenges of access to market, of being able to scale. There's also the financial issue that you mentioned before. From your perspective, how can we continue to support ecopreneurship and this movement in the Amazon and help build capacity, help encourage more young people also to pursue this trajectory?
Thank you, Nicole. Primero de todo, felicitaciones a...
Well, first of all, I would like to greet the two presenters, Sofia and Ricardo. I wish you well for everything you're doing. And listening to them, I can see the importance of this alliance and this work that we're doing together, because the first, these are, sort of value chains. It's beautiful that we're starting just the first of it. And it's the first eco company that we've done, and that's Roberto Natura that has helped the country. And Sofia, I think she's showing the importance of the chestnut for several countries in the Amazon basin as an export product. We're starting to BitLab or regenerate, for example. We are seeing, as I was saying, that was part of our proposal of climate fund. And I think that these funds, Nicole, will enable, thanks, based on that challenge that you're launching, we could give some examples like this to see what kind of support this lab could give on this, in closing this gap. So the effort I would ask you to do is to help them to close that gap, to connect them thanks to this lab and people like you, we can sort of link together. And also, Sofia, we're starting to launch an operation with COFIA in Peru that would be very important to put you in contact with all the team that is starting all these projects so that we could see that companies like yours, startup like yours could really be scaled. I think that what we are getting with the platform that you've launched is exactly, what we're doing. Building up this ecopreneurship, with all these companies, see how we can support them so that the dreams that they were talking about will, Roberto, become really a reality.
Thank you, Juan Pablo. Maybe just another very quick round of questions before we close. Roberto, I'd like to turn back to you. And I mean, you're working with Ricardo. I'm sure you're working with many more ecopreneurs. What, in your opinion, can the international business community do to really help scale ecopreneurship to the level that we need if we're really going to accelerate this transition towards the bioeconomy?
Yeah, so thank you, Nicole. So again, first is, connecting with people like Sofia and Ricardo is, for me, is always inspiring to hear those stories of entrepreneurships and the opportunity that, that we have as society, as private sector, with the help from the financial community, from of course, the public sector, so well represented here. So it gives me confidence and hope that we have the solutions. We just need to make those connections, right, and make sure that we really embrace them, and then we connect with the right people, with the right entrepreneurs, as we heard the example from both Ricardo and Sofia. So listen, for us, we've been working with over, 60 different communities in 17 countries, right? And touching and directly work with over 7,000 families. So the whole idea of this ecosystem and the collaboration with the local communities and with the entrepreneurs in the areas, this is the answer, right? We know that, and we're going to be able to find the right solutions and how we preserve the forest and create a sustainable development. We talk about acai again. We partner on that specific one with a community called Cofruta, which was formed by 40 small-scale farming families, right? To to really believing that it was possible to do something that can be, valuable, added value, and at the same time preserving the forest. So there's so many different examples. So I think the invitation to answer your question is for more companies to really get involved, to really understand, what the biodiversity, the richness of the Amazon region, and connected with those entrepreneurs that we heard the examples, and how we can really, work in partnership with them, listening to them, bringing them, as part of the table. This is so important, again, that we involve them into the decision process, into the development, in how we really need to think about it. So on and on. Again, it is exciting. It's inspiring to hear those beautiful examples here, and we look forward to continue to partner with them and expanding that and bringing other companies to really help us, because we're going to need a lot of help, right? We need really a lot of companies and a lot of support financially from private sector, government, to make sure that we can really get to the zero deforestation, that we can get to really preserve the forest and the richness of the biodiversity in the region.
Thank you, Roberto. Sophia, one quick last question to you. We've been talking also earlier about innovation and technology. And of course, there are different kinds of innovation, and there's also the important role that traditional knowledge plays, particularly along some of these non-timber forest products. Can you say a little bit about how you think about this topic and maybe what some of your needs are, or how you work on the innovation and technology, but also on the local knowledge aspect, and making sure that that is brought into the work that you do?
Me parece súper importante.
I think it's super important technology, really, and especially the technology that we can see outside, like the blockchain, for example, to be able to have traceability, in the value chain is extremely important. There is a gap really in capabilities, in connection and connectivity in the Amazon basin, which is, we have to acknowledge it. The Amazon basin is so large, so not all of it is completely connected, and there are very basic technology that is required, and really it is needed. For example, when harvesting the fruit, in the case of the chestnut, which is not, it's not a monoculture in small areas where you get lots of resources. No, it's not the case. It's hectares of forests, and you could have all of them sort of scattered. So it's very important that we have of that. And that's where innovation comes in, to be able to connect all this food, for example, to extract them on a more sophisticated way, all these products that we would like to have, the different ingredients. And therefore, a lot of investigation is required in the Amazon. The Amazon by itself is sort of a natural laboratory for that. And I have the feeling that it's not only that, very advanced and super advanced technology like the blockchain that we need, but we require also this basic technology for the people that are there, for harvesting, to improve, the yield.
Thank you, Sophia. And maybe also from you, Ricardo, it would be interesting to hear how you're thinking about technology, innovation, and how you're working also to integrate the traditional knowledge of the local communities that you work with.
Es un reto. Es un reto trabajar.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge, really, working in the Amazon and trying to have these chains that help us getting to specific markets that are, they are more demanding, and it's these challenges that require us to be in a permanent movement and sort of l'avant-garde of all these requirements. And that's where we are trying to ask help from the government, support to sort of to scale up these technologies, just like Sophia was saying, and to scale them up and give them to all the population in the local areas in the Amazon basin. And as I was saying at the beginning, so that all the rest of the world look towards us.
Thank you, Ricardo. With those great words, we want more attention on the Amazon and especially on those great models that you represent and that you have shared with us. So with that, I would like to turn back to Marisol for the last part of the panel. Marisol.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Nos entusiasma muchísimo escuchar ese.
We are very excited to hear about, this commitment, companies like Sophia's and Roberta and other largest company talking about these efforts to support the development of the Amazon basin. And we are also excited to see this enormous effort that all these ecopreneurs do in the Amazon, and they are a very important part of these large efforts. As we've acknowledged it, they are not only relevant for their local inhabitants and all the region, but they are also important for the rest of the world. So, we are very excited, thinking that we are keeping on working with you. And now I would like to ask Alexandra very briefly, that we are running against the clock. And Alexandra, how do you see, from your perspective, how could we support the ecopreneurship for the Amazon basin, please? Thank you very much, Marisol. Well, exactly. That's a great example. It's a space where all government, private banks, entrepreneurs, and different actors are converging. I think it's a great effort, and that we really have to improve it. We have to really strengthen it. And I think all the countries are showing at the level of their government full availability and openness for this kind of investment. They are collaborating on different fronts. And I think that science in our region has progressed a lot in this last 10 or 15 years. We have centers of investigation, scientific production in different countries, Brazil, Peru, Colombia, and that needs to be applied. And for that, we need resources and innovation. And I agree when Sophia and Ricardo says that definitely, they are promoting these examples. And thanks to them, we have several examples from all the different countries in the Amazon basin. But they say that they want to show the complexity that means investing and working in the Amazon. We have to understand that the Amazon basin is a very complex system. And if they are lacking from basic services of interconnectivity, and the government are working on that, but that does not mean that the companies, the private companies and the international ones, cannot invest from now in the areas. What we are requesting is a larger support, a larger cooperation in technology, and to have this possibility to produce and really scale up our chains with this traditional knowledge. And there we have a model that enables us to preserve our forest and this fantastic ecosystem that produces so much humidity that we need to preserve it for the world equilibrium. Yeah, that's no doubt. It's a very, very complex system. We have we need more actors to contribute to it, and to let's inform about this complexity and this technology that Ricardo and Sofia was talking about. It's extremely important in this post-pandemic world. We've been an accelerated transition towards this technology in order to scale up all the results. As
Amazon, the Brazilian Council, a comprehensive government coordinating body, how can we enable the bioeconomy and the issues discussed today beyond specific projects and ensure structural solutions are being adopted systemically beyond individual approaches. Señor Vicepresidente.
Well, Marisol, initially I would like to thank you, the WEF, for the opportunity to participate in this event and to hear from different stakeholders engaged in the fostering of the bioeconomy in the Amazon. Bioeconomy and the payment for environmental service are critical to the paradigmatic shift that will put an end to the predatory extraction of the forest resources. We must continue to engage local producers and communities on the debate, not only to learn about the difficulties they face, but also to be inspired by the achievements of the Amazon bioeconomy and its transformative potential for the region. The Amazon rainforest shelters the largest biodiversity reserve on the planet. We should explore this treasure in a sustainable and inclusive fashion. The forest can no longer be seen as an obstacle to development. The sustainable use of the biodiversity is the path to promote the knowledge economy model in the Amazon. We can only tread this path if we work together. Local communities, business people, governments, and research and financial institutions should be partners in this undertaking. You can rely on the National Council of the Legal Amazon to work for the fostering of bioeconomy. I call upon international institutions, investors and leaders from private and public sector to join us in this remarkable partnership. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Muito obrigada, Senhor Vice-Presidente. Now let's offer Nicole Schwab the floor for some closing remarks. Nicole, we would love to hear your reflections and about the next steps with the 1trillion.trees.org and the uplink platform. Please share with our audience the important announcement being shared right after this session. Thank you, Nicole. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Marcel. So yes, first of all, I would like to invite all of you to watch the next session where we will announce the 15 ecopreneurs that were selected as part of the Amazon Bioeconomy Challenge. You've met 2 of them, and there are 13 more across the different countries, each and every one of them with really impressive and inspirational projects. So on the part of 1T.org, we will continue to serve as a platform for exchanges like this to bring together different stakeholders behind this vision of a sustainable bioeconomy for the Amazon, and with a particular focus on scaling non-timber forest product value chains. And we've heard some great examples today, but we've also heard of some of the challenges that need to be addressed. So we will continue to work in this direction and also to engage the global private sector to support this process and to invest in forest conservation and restoration. I want to thank all of you. I think that as you just said, Vice President, and also you, Secretary General, this panel was a great example of such multi-stakeholder dialogue. And even in this short conversation, I think we've already have a few nuggets that we can take forward. Thank you all, and stay tuned for the next session to meet the ecopreneurs.